Thank you, Buster Rhyme. Couldn't have had a better hype up song to get us started. Welcome to our third ever guild event. We got people from everywhere. Thanks for joining. It's guild members, aspiring scholars, and anyone who's just new to AxieGlobal. Welcome. I want to start by saying this is all new for me to get streaming in Discord, on Twitch, and the very first one. So thank you for being here. We've got a lot to cover. We're going to go through a bunch of newly created documentation for the guild so you can see how we work on the inside and everything that's been built over the last 3 months since we got started. That very first day, I think it was August 9, when I learned about Axie Infinity, pulled a few friends together, and see where we're at now and where we're going. We're also going to have a roundtable discussion. I'm going to invite some of the council members to join me in a bit of a discussion on some topics that our members already wanted to hear about. And we'll open it up to open discussion from anyone in the audience as well. And that's where we'll take on any engaged audience member and be giving out scholarships for any good discussion that we get. So if you are in our previous sessions, you'll know that I've already run through the initial investors pitch deck. So I can bring up the recording of that at the end of this. But the focus of today is to give an overview of our guild operations. So why don't we start with that? If you haven't seen this before, this is our very proudly owned guild dashboard. And it shows a really awesome snapshot of where we're today. We got 174 scholars playing Axie Infinity, some of whom have been around for, 3 months, shortly after we got started. I think in the first 2 weeks, we ramped up to 50 scholarships and have gradually added on since then. Pretty proud of the average MMR of these teams. And in the season 18 off season, we had an average MMR of 1,600, not to mention a top MMR of 2,700. Now, season 19 brought a lot of changes, so we'll cover a bit of that. And as you get to learn a little bit more about how the guild works, it will give you a chance as an existing member to pitch in. That's exactly what we're driving towards. We want this guild to be open enough so that anyone can pitch in ideas, just as we're driving towards the idea of being a DAO. The average SLP per day, I know the value of that SLP is very dynamic, but this is a significant number, right? On average, each account is generating 160 SLP per day. And even though it's got its ups and downs, this is just the beginning for Axie Infinity, right? There's a massive ecosystem. You might be using your SLP to buy a phone. I know I saw a member show his off the other day. But we've also seen others use the Sky Mavis blockchain network. We've got some members who are staking AXS. We've got some members who are swapping their SLP for wrapped Ethereum and providing liquidity and staking those liquidity tokens to generate RON tokens, which aren't even available anywhere else right now. So very, very exciting times. So without going into too much detail, this is our in-house built web app. Not sure if we've got our CTO on the call. It's a bit of a strange hour for him. He lives in the US. It's very early in the morning, so he might just be joining us via time capsule after the fact. But yeah, very proud of what he's built here. We have a daily leaderboard, which helps drive competition. So we can see our top player here is Executor. We do have, the Discord IDs in here, but we only show those to our members, and it also helps the members identify who is the best for each build and can share their learnings. And we also have some pretty advanced capabilities in this web application. One of those capabilities is the development of a work queue. And if you've worked in the Ronin ecosystem, you'll know that there are sometimes dropped transactions, and the operational overhead of having to send Axies, do payments, heavily relies on the fluidity of the Ronin network. And so one of the first things that was really important to build was a work queue, which would ensure transactions would go through. So that has been fully developed and is working. I think I can provide a quick sample here where we have payments, pay cycles, and Axie transfers all covered by the work queue. All right. So save your questions. We'll check the Discord channel when we take a break, answer anyone's questions in that period. And then at the end, we'll open up discussion on voice as well. You're going to learn a little bit more about how this is going to differentiate our guild as well. But we'll get there. A lot of things to go through. So why don't we go through the first one? And this is one that I've pulled together over the last couple of weeks with a bit of help from different council members. It's the AxieGlobal Manifesto. And if you haven't seen one of these before, it's a very important document that helps define the vision and the way that the guild operates. So whenever we have to make tough decisions, it can't be done via a single person, such as myself. I have to rely on the people around us, the people in the guild, and most recently it's been on our council members. So shout out to the AxieGlobal Council who have helped drive the guild to where it is today. The guild structure and the incentives and the community focus for ownership has to come through. And so this manifesto tries to capture all of those themes into a set of rules or a culture, if you will, so that any decisions can come back to this manifesto. If there's ever a decision that needs to be made, you can come back to the manifesto and see if the decision that you're going to make is going to uphold the values and the themes of the guild. And this is just a first go, but I'd like to talk through it. So we're a play-to-earn guild for Axie Infinity built for players and investors. The vision is to become community-owned, and so the players themselves will be the investors in the guild. And so you'll be incentivized to drive up your own performance as well as those around you. We'll differentiate through technology, a concept I like to call ROI gaming, and a scalable guild framework. And I'll cover all three of those today. The technology you've already seen, right? There's a massive differentiator there. ROI gaming, I'll cover with a specific example using our build conversion project. That's something that we did in both season 18 and most recently completed in season 19. And the guild framework. So this is how we've converted a community framework into our guild network and something that we can expand from the 170 so members that we have now to any scale, I believe. So getting down to a little bit more detail, we operate sustainable, high-quality teams by putting the player experience front and center. So this was something that we wanted to do from the beginning in season 18. So we picked up competitively viable teams at the beginning of season 18, and they tended to be pure Axies that had a pretty well-defined placement in the meta. This game, Axie Infinity, has such a dynamic meta that it's not something that we can maintain at all times, but we can certainly apply a bit of brain work to optimize those teams without sacrificing our initial investments. We've done a lot of work to optimize those teams, modify builds, and adapt to the meta as we go. Perfect lead into the next one. We adapt to the competitive meta and try to maximize the effectiveness of the builds and the teams that we have. But it also means that we have to individually not just rely on the teams and Axies, but also optimize our gameplay and our growth mindset as a collective. So Drick, one of the first friends of mine that I brought onto the guild as a coach, helped to develop the PvP primer. And that was very, very light on detail in Axie, but it was very deep in detail in just the competitive mindset, the ability to look at your own gameplay, review mistakes that you've made, improve your gameplay long-term, ask for help where you need it, stream your gameplay to get feedback on it, and understand that things are always going to be changing, so you have to be adapting faster than it changes. Expanding it out a little bit, we go into the recruitment process. So from the beginning, we tried to make the recruitment process as stringent and quality gated as possible, optimizing people who have growth mindset as well as an interest and a passion for playing the game. That's stuff that's not easy to pick out from a form, right? A lot of guilds have application forms that help you pick out people who have a bit of knowledge. Maybe they've Googled it, those answers, but you got to have that as well as a way to pull out the subjective things. And that's why we have an interview process that is now run by our own members as well, the coaches as it is right now. What we've expanded that to is having a whole bunch of community roles, and this today is actually a good chance for us to show those off. We've recently opened them up to anybody. It used to be locked to players already on a scholarship, but these community roles have recently been opened up to everyone, and we're focused on setting up the incentives to reward output and involvement from community members. So we'll go into that in a bit of detail. The guild framework supports top community contributors. So we have set up the council. These are people who have proven they're good at the game. They're also willing to give back to the guild. And so having the council set up is one of the first things that we did. And we reward the council by allowing them to do Axie swaps, having full access to the guild stable, and have access to the upper echelons of the roles like expert and coach. We also want to support struggling players. So where we identify players who aren't able to keep up, even with the teams that we provide, we have to be able to provide the right support mechanisms to help them succeed. We've got coaching in place. We have strategy channels where we share guides that have been written by other players, and we encourage the sharing of knowledge between players. The high-performing players are given the tools for greater success. In fact, we've got 2 of our experts participating in a tournament right now, and experts in the guild have the ability to pick custom Axie teams for themselves and use those teams in the tournaments. I mean, shout out to Russ and Tactical Desi, who are streamers as well as experts, and you've done us proud. And just the last thing here is the guild is going to continuously adapt to the rapidly changing play to earn ecosystem. I mean, even Axie Infinity is in alpha, despite how successful it's been. Things are very volatile as it is, but they're winners already. All the new games that are coming into the space, we have to be on top of it. And we can talk about the Explorer role, for example, that will cover the incentives to share knowledge around the play-to-earn ecosystem. gather your questions for the AxieGlobal Manifesto. Note it's just a first pass, but yeah, it's a start. All right. Next, let's go into what we've recently opened up, the role structure, which essentially sets up the guild framework. So I've already talked about the coach and the experts. So here's a little bit of detail around those roles. All of these documents are made publicly available as well. So they should serve really, really well in the DAO, in setting up our very first foundational processes. So the expert, they are given 7 additional Axies into their account, which gives them effectively double energy and the potential to earn twice as much without an increase in an SLP quota. And if you were on our previous sessions, you'll know that we have a very low SLP quota, effectively giving all of our members the ability to take up at least 1 day off a week, right? These teams have the competitive ability to play at 1300 plus, which means that they should be getting 130 or so SLP per day if played fully. And if you play that 6 out of 7 days, your average will still be above our quota. And we want to maintain that because it's really difficult to expect anyone to play at full capacity 7 days a week. So on top of that, we have given the experts the ability to pick custom Axies for their high-level competitive play and also representation in the tournaments, like I mentioned. The coach, these are people who've been identified as great teachers and have the really difficult job of supporting struggling players. And so they are given assignments and will be given 10% of the total account earning for a certain period. In fact, this started off as being perpetual, and these kind of rewards are in flux as we're kind of optimizing them out. All right. This one has not yet been assigned, but as a result of some of the functionality that we've built into the web app, we're able to start becoming that singular, what I'd say, super guild of being one giant guild without needing individual sub-guilds within them. We can have managers that come directly from the community and give them access to send and receive Axies without compromising the guild accounts. And that should be, rewarded as quite a difficult job to do. And I can certainly tell you in the last 3 months, a lot of my time and effort has gone into the managerial side of the house, but it's given me a lot of learnings and given me the opportunity to optimize all of those processes before we start scaling out the framework. This brings us to the community roles. How do we reward all of our community roles? So if you've seen in our Discord channel, you can sign yourself up for any of these: recruiter, onboarder, streamer, creator, artists, promoter, and explorer. And they have different contributions to the guild, but they should be rewarded and incentivized for whatever they do and whatever they give back to the guild. And so this kind of goes through as what should be automatically rewarded to people who are involved in the guild. And they should be done as automated processes eventually once we're established as a DAO. But for now, we're in the growth stage. So we've got to figure out what kind of people are going to pick up these roles. And if you're interested just by seeing the incentives here on top of your interest to join the guild, awesome, because now we can talk about the role definitions and the promotion process. This is something that we changed just recently to open up all of the roles or all of the community roles to anybody at all who's even clicked into our Discord server. So expert, coach, manager, these are very, very well-defined roles that are given to existing council members. But for the community roles, we've gone ahead and scratched out existing player requirement. So once you have committed something to the guild in terms of these automated processes, in terms of recruitment, onboarding, streaming, being a creator, whether it's art or article writing, they will be rewarded. And as an example, we had the email publication created by Joji C, who happens to be a member, but was interested in creating a publication for today's event and was able to do it and is now a recognized and rewarded creator. And I just want to stress that all of these roles are open to everyone. It's meant to be a scalable community, which will just build up based on the goals of the guild. All right. Certainly save up your questions, or even click through to our Discord channel, click on the self roles, assign yourself one of these and see where you can go with that. All right. So let's talk about the guild framework. So a lot of people come into the guild looking for scholarships, and those who are successful through getting a scholarship will get access to this structure, which is the internal guild structure for running our Axie operations. The council, as you know, we've got approximately 10 to 15% of the guild is in the council, and it pretty much reflects what is observed in DAOs these days. I think it's Cooper Trooper who said in a podcast that in any DAO, it's observed that about 90% of the contributors are happy to exercise their right to vote and enjoy the benefits of the DAO or participation in the DAO. And then you've got about 9% of the DAO who are front-running contributors who will propose ideas, propose changes, and drive votes for their proposals. And then you have the 1% of each DAO who will be the documenters, who will be the facilitators, and the overseers for the DAO processes. And so we've almost got exactly the same thing happening here, but applied to a gaming guild, which is really interesting to me. Where we expand this is now we've got the open roles for community contribution. And so the roles that I've mentioned already, they're already predefined now in the Discord channel. And anyone's open to contribute and start earning in those roles once they've been recognized into these official roles in purple, and would be treated just as well as a council member would with the purple council role for scholars. And what's also being built out now is a partnership network, which will include the investor network as well as partner guilds. Now, the most interesting concept to me is on this next slide. So I mentioned Super Guild at one stage, and some people know about how Yield Guild Games, YGG, one of the most well-known play-to-earn games right now, is actually a guild of guilds. And so they have this standard guild model, which effectively gives their guild framework and branding some value. And that value is paid for in the scholarships that the guilds that come under the YGG model pay as 10% of all scholarships that they manage. So those sub-guilds are effectively the managers of that guild, and under YGG there is an effective 20% rate for those guild managers and a 70% earn rate for scholars. The AxieGlobal guild model follows a little bit closer to the Super Guild model, which I believe Merit Circle is using right now, which essentially allows the guild to scale out its own model and run as simply as a set of scholars and under a guild brand, which might include management and processes. And where we want to get to is reward our early adopters, our scholars, with tokens that will represent their contributions and their early adoption, and essentially convert all of our scholars to investors as well. And that will really synthesize the guild model into a single unit of scholars, managers under the guild banner. And once we get to a DAO where there is no real central governing body, don't get me wrong, there will be leaders. Even in DAOs, there will be leaders. But once the guild banner has value in running the culture, it will be a single cohesive unit. So that's been an interesting concept to explore. And we're getting closer and closer to that end goal. All right, I think we're doing well for time. I wanted to go deep into the detail of one of our guild projects, which gives you a bit of an idea of how we operate. And I just want to thank Ines, who's one of our Discord managers, for putting this together. It's really important in any kind of online community to have someone who's good at documentation. And this is how it's been built out. So this is some documentation of what we did in both the season 18 and the season 19 competitive meta changes to adapt, flex our ROI gaming concept, and utilize the skills that come with our own members in the council and further. All right, so we started at the beginning of season 18. There were some known team comps around then: AAP, ABP, and BBP. And you'll know that ABP was a well-established team for adventure mode, but not so much arena. And season 18 brought with it a massive shift in focus from adventure to the arena. The ABP team, we noticed, was falling behind the potential of the AAP and the BBP teams. And so we needed to find a way to optimize our team compositions, even though we had started out with these three, an even distribution of AAPs, ABPs, and BBPs. So this is what we did. The ABP team, like I said, was being observed as having a lower average MMR. And so we needed to convert without selling these Axies, where possible, into viable teams. So what we did was we looked at our other two team compositions, BBP and AAP, and we came up with a way to expand the guild whilst at the same time converting a single, not very viable team, that's ABP, into two competitively viable teams, AAP and BBP, which just happened to be existing builds. So this was optimization super early on. The ABP team was quickly converted simply by adding a Nemo Aqua to replace the Beast to form an AAP. And then the Beast was taken into a BBP team by adding a bird and another one of the guild standard plants. You'll see this hotbot plant pop up a lot. It's because it is adaptable. It's easy to use. It fits within a lot of different builds. And so we have a lot of these guild standard plants. And what we end up with is a whole bunch of AAP and BBP teams. Whilst we're growing, we're adding new kinds of builds. And these are builds that were recommended by our council. In fact, if you saw earlier on our leaderboard and our previous presentations, you'll have seen that we have an AAP2 tanky variation build. We have termy variation builds of the Aqua and the Beast type. And in season 19, we've added a whole bunch of variations on that, which take advantage of Tri-Spikes reptiles as well. The season 18 off-season was amazing. We had awesome performance from all of the teams that we had. And just to give you an idea, at the time, we probably had around 140 active players in scholarships. With season 18 ending, our average MMR was above 1600, which puts the guild in the top 19th percentile. There's an MMR table which kind of shows you the breakdown, and yeah, we were pretty proud of that, despite having pretty standard teams. Not written here is a kind of overarching theme for our teams. They fit within a budget. They are easy or simple enough to use so that anyone, even without prior Axie experience, would be able to pick up the gameplay. Are composed of Axies that are adaptable. In other words, we don't want to create teams with Axies that are not very transferable. That would make it hard for us to do projects like these ones. So then came season 19. There were massive nerfs to those pure aquas that we had. Individual card nerfs weren't that much, but for pure aquas with 4 of those cards which got nerfed, that was an effective, 20% or more because of multiplication effectiveness of those pure aquas. So we needed to do something there. The nerfs to the birds didn't end up being too impactful. We certainly noticed that AAP1, our initial build, which it's now called, was becoming less and less viable in the season 19 meta. So here's a bit of a reiteration of the concepts. We needed to find a competitively viable team, whether we convert the single AAP1 team into 2 competitively viable teams, or figure out a way to otherwise use those Axies. We need it to be relatively easy to use, needs to be fit within a certain budget. At the time, the season 19 market went quite crazy. It was quite difficult to get Axies that were competitively viable below 0.08 F. But over the time, that market cooled off a bit, and we did a little bit more build testing. So what do we need to do? We needed to solve a simultaneous equation, getting nerdy, my kind of thing, to convert AAP into XAP and YAP. So that would split up the Nemo Aqua and the Koi Aqua. And the X and Y axes could be anything, really, as long as they fit the bill. And this team, the AAP1, as you see on screen, was converted into what we now know as RAP2, or where you have a tri-spiked reptile or dusk with Nemo Aqua and our standard plant, and the ABP2. And ABP has now come back as a competitively viable team, given the effective buffs or the effective strength increase of beasts. So now we have 2 competitively viable teams converted out of AAP1, which was observed as becoming weak. This wasn't easy to do. It took the council and myself, quite a while to come up with these solutions, but it was an awesome demonstration of the ability of me having very, very little competitive knowledge myself, but able to rely on the strong contributors within AxieGlobal. All right. So I hope you have a whole bunch of questions saved up. This is where we open up the discussion to the guild. I had a couple of council members who were ready to contribute to the discussion here. So the topics on screen were the ones that we wanted to cover. I might just undeafen myself from Discord and get some input from people in the town hall right now. So does anyone want to propose some possible ideas for Axie builds to add to the guild now that we've seen Season 19 develop? right, if no one wants to take a shot at it, I'm going to bring up a couple of notes from good old Drick. Toilet bot. You there?
Yes.
Maybe I could get your thoughts
Someone in
first.
Twitch chat said, how about dusk aqua in plants? But
yeah, I mean, we've got Dusk Aqua Plant now with the RAP2 team. Does anyone have Drick's message? He left one in the council chat. I just haven't.
Sure, can I?
Yeah, of course. Go on.
Okay. So this is not a build implementation, but I mean it is, but in a different way. So you did say that we already have some builds that are what builds that are I know. Let's see. It's beginner friendly. So I was thinking that maybe in the future that in the future maybe the guild will find a way to implement something to give freedom to our new generation of scholarship. So how I am thinking, how about we give them a budget and then we let the scholar choose the theme of their wantings with the budget affordable to it. What do you think of it, sir?
Yeah, I mean, we went through these projects to convert existing teams because it was just something that we had to do, right? We didn't want to we didn't want to leave behind the Axies that became less competitively viable. But yeah, these new builds, we're willing to pick them up and have them tested. In fact, the council went through a whole bunch of testing at the beginning of season 19 to go through and see what the biggest changes and impacts there were. There was a proposed from Reckles Niche consideration to add a beast with Night Steel on the RBP2 setup instead of the standard Rimp beast. What do you think of that, Gene?
I don't know about Night Steel, but most likely, from my coaching, I think we should eliminate the acro type of beast for bird comps.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Right now we have BBP2, which is a Aquastock plant with Acro Beast and a Double Talk Bird. And it's doing okay, but yeah, certainly open to converting existing builds if there's some kind of team composition that's going to just way overtake in terms of performance. Johnny Fluffy proposed BPP team. A lot of double plant teams we're seeing in season 19. Interesting one. I think one of those teams falls under the umbrella of being maybe a little bit too specialized. But yeah, I mean, there's no doubt it has a lot of competitive viability right now. anyone else want to contribute here? Or we can move on to the next one.
Where does
Trick's notes were essentially all good. We'll leave that for later. All right, so expansion into other play-to-earn games, and I know Toiletbot's got quite a few thoughts around this one. Do you want to start off the conversation?
Yeah, sure. So I know a lot of our members are asking when we would expand into new play to earn games, especially now that there's hype going around with newly released NFTs, like Titan Hero, Pegasus, and Chumbi Valley soon. But I think the reason why we haven't expanded to it right now, like in this exact moment, is we want to let the hype down first to see how stable the game will be, because we've seen a lot of the instances where these games suddenly have a huge drop and people just leave. So
Yeah.
so we want to see how the community would react to it first when prices goes down, like what's happening with Axie Infinity right now. You can see how stable Axie still is, even though the prices have dropped down. And well, other than that, the councils are still doing their best to explore these new play to earn games through other communities. And I know a lot of us have already ventured into different guilds to test these play to earn games out, so we can push it more into our own guild. And we're doing plenty of research, but if the community thinks that our research is we're not doing research fast enough, I'm quite certain that we have an community role or explorer, which we would like to hear from.
Yeah. So a couple of things. First is Axie Infinity is probably the only established play-to-earn game with a massive community and has proven that it's quite successful. Yeah, we don't want to dive too quickly into any new play-to-earn game, but yeah, certainly some hype around Axie and Thetan Arena, especially in the existing Axie Infinity community. We want to make sure when we dive into something that we're going to commit to it. So just like with Axie Infinity, we're going all out in maximizing our investment in optimizing what we've already got. The second thing to note is, yeah, in the crypto space, a lot happens at any given time. And just in any other crypto group that you may have joined, the best way to get across things is actually to have a group of friends who each pick, a specialization of their own each and shares the most valid insights with the rest of the group, because there's just too much to get across. So that's the entire crypto space. But overall, just within play to earn, even within this space, there's too much to get across, and you have to make very, very strong judgments about each play to earn space before you make massive investments in it. The Pegaxie concept is quite I wouldn't say it's unique, but it's been proven that it works for some scholars. And in the long term, we want to be able to take advantage of the fact that we have a scholar framework. We have trusted players who would easily give these kind of other scholarships or accesses into other play-to-earn ecosystems as soon as we've made a decision to invest in them. For us, the best way to emulate that group of friends who shares information between themselves is to have community roles that share with each other and incentivize people to share their learnings within the guild. So that explorer role, if you've picked one of those up, that's exactly where you're going to use the knowledge that you have and share it with the guild. And if it fits within the guild model, then everyone will benefit from it and you'll be rewarded in sharing that information, even if it's within Axie. So as an example, if you identify a breeding strategy with the Axies that exist in our guild stable, that is something that an explorer role can do, right? If there is a new mechanism or a new feature within the game that allows us to expand or allows us to optimize our approach even better. Did anyone have anything else specific about other play-to-earn games? Cool. All right, last one. And anyone feel free to jump in here. So if you're an AxieGlobal member, you've been through 1, 2, maybe 3 automated payment rounds. I mean, the last month we processed over 660,000 SLP for that payment round. Tell us how you spent it. Go on. Who bought that? Who bought that gold case phone?
Like Reckless Niche, I'm gonna follow in his footsteps and buy myself a phone for Christmas. And
yeah, I mean, getting a phone is kind of, it's awesome that you can do that, but also you're going to be using it to play these games. So it's like investing in yourself in play to earn. Reckless Niche buying that phone with the gold box was pretty bling. Questionable subscriptions on hobbies. Probably, I think we can extrapolate what's going on there. You must be not the only fan. Anyone else want to share like how they spend their SLP or maybe very sensibly reinvest it? I'm happy to talk about that for a few minutes. Reinvestment.
I'm actually taking the AXSP1 and I'm probably going to take my next month's SLP earnings.
What are you gonna say? Put it into
maybe farm run, I think.
Farming run. Okay. Yeah, farming run is a really unique opportunity. I can never say I'm giving financial advice, but it is certainly a unique opportunity to be able to learn about DeFi concepts by using the decentralized exchange or DEX concepts. If you haven't read about how the Katana DEX works for the Ronin ecosystem, check it out. I mean, you're in the Axie ecosystem already. It borrows the same concepts of any common decentralized exchange, and by swapping your tokens between SLP and Ethereum, wrapped Ethereum, or AXS and Ethereum, you can provide liquidity on the exchange, stake those liquidity tokens, and earn RON, which will be the central token for the entire Ronin network. And you can extrapolate the value of Ron token by looking at other token ecosystems. Yeah, a couple of people are going to invest in other Axie, in Axies. Some people are going to invest in other play-to-earn games, maybe even new and upcoming games like Chumby Valley. I know they're doing their sale just in a few days' time. But yeah, there's lots that you can do. I'd say getting SLP without too much knowledge of the crypto space is your key to learn about crypto concepts. And if you're anything like me, you'll know, or you'll really strongly believe in the massive shift and migration into crypto, DeFi being one of the first big use cases. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to open it up to anybody in the audience. So I think I'm going to need to open up the permissions for everyone to speak. And moderators, please prepare your mute button for background noise. But everyone in the Discord channel is now able to share. And let me see, this is the first time using Twitch Studio, but I'm going to open up chat and the Discord window so you can see that. You can see the Twitch, sorry, the Discord channel. All right. I think, yeah, rookie mistake here is not accounting for the Twitch delay. But the chat, I know, has no delay, so I'll certainly answer questions that come through on the chat. And if anyone starts asking questions on Discord, I can try to answer those as well. All right, I've unmuted myself on Discord so you can hear the questions straight up. Does anyone want to ask questions about anything that we covered?
Alan S has a question on the AMA channel.
Awesome. Which do you prefer, having their own ability but they don't discuss or ask for help with their crewmates, or having a scholar that is an average player but wants to grow and ask for help on how to become good at the game? Really good question. So yeah, we have varying players, some who are really, really good but aren't really too big on sharing or contributing too much back to the guild. And then we have others who are, okay at the game, but they're really willing to learn, really willing to give back to the community. In my opinion, I think someone who's more involved in the community is going to be more successful in the long run, and is going to be better for the guild in the long run too. Because, I mean, it's the difference between individual and network, right? Someone who can partake in the network and contribute in the network is going to be much better at learning over time, building their own friendship circle and network out, and will just generally be more successful in the long run. So I think that's what I would prefer, and generally the guild would prefer, with that focus on a growth mindset. Question: do you consider AAB Anemone lineup as a standard team of the guild? I mean, at the beginning of season 19, we saw a lot of those, and it was a bit of an obnoxious build, right? Doing double Anemone and using a bird. In my opinion, yeah, it's certainly viable. We can certainly use it for some time. We do have a lot of double Anemone aquas, and we do have some birds. So yeah, we can certainly have that as a standard build. my guess is it's not going to be a long-term build that we'll stick with. Broccoli's been seeing Web3 tokens shilled on Reddit and Twitter. Can you explain how it's different from Web 1 and Web 2? Well, I don't think there really are any Web 1 and Web 2 tokens being shilled on Reddit or Twitter. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anything that you see shilled in the crypto space on Reddit or Twitter right now is going to be a Web3 token. Maybe it's Web3 token in comparison to or in contrast to a token that doesn't necessarily have a Web3 application. So it could be, say, Ethereum like tokens. I wouldn't necessarily call them a Web3 token, but something that has a decentralized app or a Web3 application which requires a certain token to participate in or to even use that application is going to be labeled a Web3 token. Okay, so what do you think about SLP prices not affecting the popularity of Axie Infinity? Do you think this is crypto ignorance or people trusting the devs? Yeah, really timely question. I think the team has already shown that they have very, very good retention rates and, daily active user count retention despite the volatility of the token. I think, generally speaking, the Axie players understand that there is a lot of volatility around the token. So if someone needs the money, they will take in the conversion of SLP into their fiat currency when they need it, and it works essentially like variable pay. Anyone who's in a non-base salary type role is already working like this, right? Any targets based job is going to be experiencing the ups and downs of good and bad quarters. But the other part of it is also that Axie has a really strong community. So even with the ups and downs, there is a lot more that you can do in the space, like all these community roles that we've built that will allow you to build. You see all these people talk about building when things are up and building when things are down. It's kind of a very broad statement to make, but what you can do to turn that concept into reality is use the chance, regardless of whether SLP is up or down, to expand your understanding of crypto, to expand your network, to contribute to a DAO or contribute to AxieGlobal as a guild. And you're going to be essentially investing time in upping your own knowledge, investing in yourself in rapidly growing space. People do trust the dev team. I mean, Sky Mavis has continuously delivered. They have had a couple of delays in the past, but the trust in the team is really quite strong. And just on that, I think we're seeing some signs of some players losing a bit of motivation to play with the SLP prices down. But I mean, you got to have consistency, you got to have resilience, even when things are up and down. And I've said this before on Twitter, it's your resilience and your drive to be able to work and build even during periods like downturn that will differentiate you as a winner. Yeah, there's still a lot to come. They have quite an extensive roadmap, and they have shown that they do deliver on it. There has been a bit of a land gameplay delay. It does put a bit of a damper on the general feel, and discussions that happen in their Discord channel. But yeah, people are still quite confident in the team. AxieGlobal meetup when? Started discussing this with the council recently. I mean, we'd certainly support, using guild treasury funds to fund guild meetups. And I understand there's a bit of travel restrictions in the Philippines where the majority of our members are at the moment. So got to get through that, figure out the logistics. But as soon as we can do one, I'll be there. Saving my face reveal and docs for just before our token release and funding, but might even give it up if we can get a meetup before then. Mystic plot when? Looking at the Mystic plots right now with the land FUD that's going on. Okay. Any questions on Twitch? I'm just having a look here. Nothing's come through on Twitch. Meetup would be wherever is easiest for the majority of people. I don't think we have any Australian players or members at the moment. So certainly not Australia. How do you? Oh, I kind of want to delete all these comments now. If you're going to be a scholar, what do you think that is the most difficult part of it? Axie Infinity is designed not to be too difficult. We build these teams to be relatively easy to use, as long as you can put a bit of a time commitment in each day. And as a general guide, it's going to take 2 to 3 hours to get the full potential out of your game. That is going to be the most difficult part, is getting that consistency day in, day out. What's next after 200 scholars? So we're at 170 now. We do have, the Axies to create probably the rest of it to get to our 200 goal. What's next after that? Well, I think it is to really solidify the community framework that we have, solidify the guild framework. In fact, the number one task that will be on my to-do list, or the team's to-do list, is to automate as many of the processes and build them into the community as possible, so that once we do our investment and funding round, say we get enough funding to get 1,000 teams, we want to be able to operationalize those 1,000 teams in as short a period as possible. And that we're pretty close to it, right? The whole onboarding process, recruitment process with the wait list, and the web app and technology allowing us to distribute teams and assign to new scholars really, really quickly is getting us really close to that. The shorter and that time is from getting a scholar onboarded and having them use a team, and the smaller the overhead is of administrating changes in, say, a scholar having to leave or a scholar having to request time off or a team change if they're in the council, then yeah, the better. And I think we're getting really, really close. In fact, it's been a driving principle for me too, because some of you know my personal situation, how little time I have to commit. And so it's forced me and the rest of the core team to be really, really strict about automation and scalability. Being one of the biggest guild making Axie Infinity, what kind of pressure are you feeling? Well, the pressure hasn't been so much. It's pressure for our own expectations to have the most rewarding guild experience. I think that the investment of time was difficult because when season 19 came around, a lot of research and administrative overhead fell into my hands. But we've kind of alleviated that for the next round already. More questions from Alan. Before investing in this game, how long did you take to study, and did I have any doubts about it? I didn't have a doubt in my mind at all. The day that I learned about Axie Infinity and how it worked was the day that I decided AxieGlobal was the way to go. And if anyone has seen my guild leader memoir, I might just pull it up actually. Not this one. I think someone who has the link is going to need to share it because I've got the wrong link here. Here it is. Yep. I'll drop the link in here. If anyone's ever seen it, I played Ragnarok Online for most of my life. I tried out guild leading recently, and I wrote, a lengthy document about this, and getting pretty well entrenched in the Filipino gamer community and seeing play to earn, it was a no-brainer for me to jump straight into this. Plans for the off season. Are we flipping Axies to have budget to buy Axies, which may be more meta? We have been able to flip some Axies in the past, but selling Axies hasn't really been in our strategy. We will certainly be picking up new Axies for new builds that are now, known as the competitively viable teams and will fit the team design. Has the guild adapted with the current meta changes? Yeah, I think so. Not in the way that we went big bang with season 18, but we've certainly adapted. In fact, if you look at our average MMR, I'd say we're more than halfway through season 19 now. But the average MMR is pretty good for the teams that we're using. Plans to increase the publicity or engagement for the guild? Well, this very AMA town hall is one way. Certainly going to lean on the community framework and see whether we need to modify incentives for community contribution. Certainly a bit of a lack of focus has been in using social media to garner an audience. I think there is a bit of some work going in the background, which I can talk about briefly here, around our approach to doing our token release and our funding round. It will be based on either NFTs or ERC20 tokens or both. And there is a art competition that we're going to be running. More info on that down the track. Does the guild have a dedicated breeding team? Well, we kicked off the breeding approach. Approach with season 19. So we started breeding our own Tri-Spikes reptiles, and it was actually as a result of having some zero breed count Tri-Spikes reptiles with pretty good genes, and that's what kicked it off in the first place. So, all our experts using 49 mechs? No. Every expert has the ability to request their own team. And I think, go back to this, maybe not, view. Well, you maybe saw at the beginning, there was some stars. Those stars represent custom expert teams. There were some dash Cs, which represents a council build or a currently tested council build. So So yeah, there's certainly a lot of flexibility in those council member teams. What is the advantage and disadvantage of having a lot of scholars? I think the advantage is obviously being able to test large guild frameworks and scalability. The disadvantage is not being able to individually track and see the individual scholar experience. I have to rely on, the squad framework, the coach framework, to get feedback on how the scholars are going. I did not plan on doing any singing in today's stream. Look, I also wanted to make sure we got some time at the end here to deliver on the promise to give scholarships out to people who are really engaged in the community. I would like to extend a scholarship opportunity to go through probation, see how you go, to Alan S. Thank you for all the questions tonight. And also to Mix. Yeah, bunch of really, really good questions that came through. If I missed anyone else, let me know. We'll make something happen. But yeah, thank you for the really good questions that came through from the two of you. All right, we're well past the hour. I am going to close off our stream, our very first Twitch stream. Thanks for joining, and I look forward to the next one. Thank you for coming, to all the members, all of the aspiring scholars, and newbies to the scene. All right. Thank you, team, for joining. We closed out the Twitch stream. We've got the Discord channel still going. Yeah, thanks for joining. I mean, congrats to the two new members.